I still remember that night in Van Meter. The air was thick, heavy with the promise of an early frost, but something far more sinister chilled the air. It started with a noise, faint at first, just a low hum that seemed to vibrate deep within my chest. I had been locking up the shop, thinking of nothing more than the warmth of my bed, when that hum grew louder, almost like the distant buzz of electricity, but wrong. Unnatural. I looked up the street, expecting to see someone, something. But there was nothing. Only the soft glow of the streetlights casting long, eerie shadows across the cobblestones. The town was quiet, almost too quiet. Everyone had been on edge lately. Whispers of strange sightings had spread like wildfire. First, it was Old Man Coons who claimed he saw something, inhuman, perching on the roof of the general store. No one believed him, not at first. Everyone knew he drank too much. But then others started talking, good, God-fearing folks. They swore they'd seen something too, something massive with leathery wings and a glowing horn. I chuckled to myself, shaking off the chill running up my spine. It was just superstition, nothing more. We were all getting worked up over nothing, letting our imaginations run wild. But then I heard it, a flap, heavy and deliberate, cutting through the stillness of the night. My breath caught in my throat as I slowly turned around. There, at the end of the street, barely visible in the dim light, was a figure. No, not a figure, a creature. It stood tall, far taller than any man, with wings spread wide like a bat's, but larger, more menacing. And from its head glowed a light, not soft and warm like the street lamps, but harsh, cold, and alive. It was watching me. My heart pounded in my chest, and I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. The creature took a step forward, the ground trembling beneath its weight, and then another. Every instinct screamed at me to run, to get away, but I was frozen in place, paralyzed by fear. Its glowing horn flickered, pulsing with an unnatural energy that seemed to reach into the depths of my soul, pulling at something dark and primal. And then it let out a screech, a blood-curdling, ear-piercing shriek that echoed through the empty streets. I clapped my hands over my ears, but it was too late. The sound tore through me, sending shockwaves of pain rippling through my body. I stumbled backward, desperate to get away, but the creature was faster. It launched itself into the air, wings flapping furiously as it dove toward me with terrifying speed. I bolted, adrenaline surging through my veins as I raced down the street, my footsteps pounding against the cobblestones. The creature's screeching echoed in my ears, growing louder, closer. I dared to glance over my shoulder, and there it was, gaining on me, its glowing horn casting eerie shadows in the darkness. I burst into the first open door I found, slamming it shut behind me and pressing my back against it, gasping for breath. The room was pitch black, and I fumbled for a light, my hands shaking. Finally, my fingers found a match, and I struck it, the small flame illuminating the room just enough to reveal nothing. I was alone. For now. The creature screeched again, and the walls seemed to vibrate with the force of it. I could hear its wings beating against the air outside, the sound growing fainter as it moved away, but I knew it wasn't gone. Not for good. I wasn't the only one who had seen it. Others had too. The whole town had been living in fear, locking their doors at night, praying it wouldn't come for them next. But now I had seen it up close. I knew what it was capable of. This monster wasn't just some legend. It was real. And it was hunting us. The match burned down to my fingers, and I dropped it with a curse. Darkness enveloped me once more, but I didn't dare move. I stood there, listening, waiting. The hum had returned, softer now, almost like a lullaby, coaxing me into a false sense of security. But I knew better. It was still out there, lurking in the shadows, waiting for the right moment to strike. And then, silence. That's when the fear really set in. It was out there, somewhere, but it was no longer making noise. No longer announcing its presence with that horrific screech. It was smart, smarter than any of us had given it credit for. And now it was hunting in silence. I had to warn the others. I had to tell them what I'd seen. We couldn't fight this thing on our own. We needed help, real help. But as I stepped away from the door, a new sound reached my ears, soft, barely audible at first, but unmistakable. A scratching, a scraping, coming from the floor above me. My blood ran cold as I looked up at the ceiling, the hairs on the back of my neck standing on end. It was in the house. And it wasn't alone. The scratching continued, faint but deliberate, creeping down from the floor above like claws scraping against wood. My heart pounded in my chest as I stared up at the ceiling, every muscle in my body tensed and ready to run. But where would I go? It was here, inside the house. There was nowhere to run. I slowly backed away from the door, trying to keep my breathing steady, trying to listen for any other sounds. The silence was suffocating. It pressed down on me like a heavy blanket, amplifying every creak of the floorboards, every distant rustle of the wind outside. And then, just as I thought the creature had lost interest, the scratching stopped. I froze, my breath catching in my throat. The house was deadly quiet. The air felt thick with tension, as if the very walls were holding their breath, waiting for something, anything, to happen. And then, from the shadows of the stairwell, I heard it. A low growl. It was deep, guttural, and so unnervingly close that I instinctively took a step back, my eyes darting toward the stairs. In the faint light from the street outside, I could just make out the shape of something massive, crouched at the top of the stairs. Its glowing horn pulsed faintly, casting an eerie light that flickered in and out like a dying ember. And then, slowly, it began to descend. Step by step. The sound of its claws clicking against the wooden steps echoed through the house, each step a slow, deliberate taunt. It was toying with me. I could feel it in the way it moved, the way it kept just enough of itself in the shadows to make sure I couldn't see it fully, couldn't comprehend the horror of its true form. But I had to do something. I couldn't just stand there and let it come for me. My eyes darted around the room, searching for anything I could use as a weapon, a chair, a lamp, anything. But there was nothing. Nothing that would stop this thing. The creature was halfway down the stairs now, its massive wings tucked against its body as it moved with an unnatural grace. I could see the gleam of its eyes in the darkness, two pinpoints of malevolent light fixed on me. And then, just as I thought I was done for, a voice called out from the darkness behind me. "Get down!" Before I could react, something slammed into me, knocking me to the ground just as a shotgun blast echoed through the room. The sound was deafening, and the creature let out an ear-piercing screech as it reared back, its wings flaring out in a frenzy of movement. I scrambled to my feet, dazed and disoriented, and saw a figure standing in the doorway, shotgun in hand. It was one of the townspeople, a farmer, his face lined with age and fear. He motioned for me to follow him, and without hesitation, I did. We burst out of the house and into the night, the cold air biting at my skin as we ran. Behind us, I could hear the creature's wings beating against the air as it recovered from the blast, its screech echoing through the streets once again. We didn't stop until we reached the town's old coal mine, a dark, gaping hole in the earth that had been abandoned for years. The farmer led me inside, and we crouched down behind a pile of rubble, both of us gasping for breath. For a moment, there was silence. But it didn't last long. The screeching returned, louder this time, and I realized with a sinking feeling that the creature was following us. It was hunting us down, and it wouldn't stop until we were dead. "We have to end this," the farmer whispered, his voice shaking. "We have to trap it down here." How? I asked, panic rising in my throat. That thing, it's not like anything I've ever seen. How do we stop it? The farmer's face was grim as he glanced toward the entrance of the mine. There's a way. But it's dangerous. We have to collapse the mine on top of it. Seal it in. It's the only way. I stared at him, my mind racing. The mine, of course. The creature had been spotted near here before, hadn't it? What if? It had been here all along, buried deep underground, sleeping? And now it had awakened. The screeching grew louder, and I could hear the creature's wings beating against the air as it closed in on us. We didn't have much time. I nodded to the farmer, and together, we moved deeper into the mine, searching for the old supports, the ones that held the whole structure together. Finally, we found them, rotting wooden beams that looked like they could give way at any moment. The farmer handed me a pickaxe, and we both started swinging, tearing at the supports with everything we had. The mine groaned in protest, the walls trembling as bits of dirt and rock began to rain down on us. But it wasn't enough. The creature was here. It swooped into the mine, its glowing horn casting grotesque shadows on the walls as it let out a deafening roar. The farmer fired another shot, but the creature barely flinched. It was too close now, too strong. And then I saw it. The real horror of what we had awakened. The glowing horn wasn't just a part of the creature. It was alive. I could see it now, pulsing with dark energy, feeding off the fear and chaos around it. And as the creature moved closer, the light grew brighter, almost blinding, until I realized it wasn't just the creature that was the threat. It was the horn. It was ancient, older than the town, older than anything we could comprehend. And it was waking up. Not just the creature, but the thing inside it, the entity that had been trapped for so long. And now it wanted out. I could feel it pulling at me, pulling at the farmer, pulling at everything around us. This wasn't just a cryptid. This was something far worse, something that had been buried deep underground for a reason. And we had let it loose. The walls of the mine began to collapse, rocks and debris falling all around us as the creature lunged toward us, its glowing horn pulsating with dark energy. The farmer grabbed me, shoving me toward the exit just as the ceiling gave way, burying the creature and the horn under tons of rubble. We barely made it out alive, crawling through the dirt and debris until we collapsed on the ground outside, gasping for air. The mine was sealed, the creature trapped inside. But as I looked back at the collapsed entrance, I couldn't shake the feeling that it wasn't over. The horn, the entity, it was still there, buried beneath the earth. Waiting. And one day, it would wake up again,